got the setup for today is, first of all, I just want to play you a few videos. Obviously, as you know, Dad worked a lot of his life in America and Brazil. So a few of his colleagues have put together some videos just to say their thoughts of Dad's. And then I'm going to ask Graham Twyford, one of Dad's best and long-time friends, to come and share. And we have a lot of guest speakers just to share their side of things. And what I've tried to do is grab someone for every area of the Australian sugar industry. But I'll hand over to my wife to show these first few tributes.
Good morning. My name is Jesse Lopez. I am honored and privileged to say a few words about Neville Toft. Neville was more than a friend. He was a mentor. He was a colleague. He was someone I could trust. Neville's contributions to Australia, to John Deere, to the sugarcane sector are immeasurable. Neville made us all better. Everything he touched, he made better. Neville has had an immeasurable impact on me personally, professionally, and I would not be where I'm at without Neville Toft and his tutelage and his patience to teach me about mechanized sugarcane harvest. Neville is truly one of a kind. There will never be another Neville Toft. And for those of us who've had the privilege and the honor of knowing him, we should truly be grateful. And I will forever cherish the time we spent together and everything that Neville gave me and the business I love so much. Thank you all for your time today. Stay safe and have a good weekend.
Hello everyone, my name is Marco Ripoli, I'm from Brazil, and I wanted to say that I had the privilege to work with Neville Toft for over 13 years during my period in John Deere. I particularly wanted to say that Neville Toft devoted his life to the service of the sugarcane harvest business around the world, and as you can imagine, we will miss him very much. He was a loved, appreciated figure not only at John Deere, but in the whole industry, and we are also deeply touched about our loss today. Neville was a very special person, who I think above all else would be amazed by the reaction and touching things that people are saying about him, and from that point of view, we should be deeply grateful for all that. Thank you, Neville. All my best wishes to you, to your family and friends.
I would like to start this message say thank you, Neville. Thank you for teaching me about cane harvesting and cane mechanization system worldwide. Thank you, Neville, for being a true friend and keep in touch despite the distance and how busy we were every day. Thank you, Neville, for having a very nice FaceTime conversations about professional and personal life. Thank you for all, Neville. Obrigado, amigo.
Hello, I'm Mark Lou here. First, I'd like to extend my sincere condolences to everybody who knew and loved Neville. I first met Neville more than 25 years ago. He was the second Australian I met after I started working at Chemical. Two things were immediately apparent when I did: how proud he was to be an Australian and how proud he was to be in the cane harvesting business. And those never changed. Over the years, I spent many hours working and traveling with Neville, and I can't begin to explain how much he taught me as our friendship grew. About cane harvesters, about how to treat people, well, about many things. There are a few things that I will always remember about Neville. His memory was as good as anybody's I've met, and was happy to share what he knew. It was like a library where he knew where everything was. His passion for his life's work was unmatched. I've yet to meet anybody as passionate as him in any field. His work ethic and his attention to details were second to none, whether working with design teams, testing machines, or demoing machines for new or potential customers. I'll always cherish the memory of our morning and afternoon calls during my daily commute.
I first met Neville in a Louisiana cane field testing out a prototype harvester for Cameco. I was 16 years old and had a passion for sugarcane equipment just like him. In between loads of cane, he let me drive the harvester on the headlands. It wasn't until I became a cane harvest engineer for John Deere that Neville and I became friends. Neville has been by my side sharing his knowledge and passion for sugarcane equipment. Since I have also been brought up around the sugar industry, we have not always seen eye to eye, but I have always respected and valued his input. I have lost several family members during my lifetime as well. Some of them were poor farmers and uneducated inventors out of necessity. They spoke the language of sugarcane, and Neville filled that void for me. He and I spoke very frequently, exchanging ideas, pictures, and gossip surrounding sugarcane equipment. It is always hard to lose a mentor and a friend, but his memories and legacy will live on.
Good morning, everyone. I guess I don't have to introduce myself. I've been around a few years, spent a lot of time with Neville over, I don't know how far we go back, but probably 30, 40 years anyway. I've put a few things together. Some of it may not mean a lot to you, but I tried to go back as far as I could anyway, so we'll see how it goes. I have been very saddened to hear of the passing of Neville. Neville Harold Toft was born on the 20th of September 1947. He passed away on the 7th of April 2021 at the age of 73. My association with the Toft family stems back to 1970, when then I first worked for Neville's father at the Toft workshop at Avoca in Bundaberg. I then got to know Neville as a bright, energetic fellow that was keen to always try to help his father with design of machines and also with many demonstrations around Queensland, New South Wales and overseas. Neville was born to an innovative family that pioneered not only the chopper harvesters, but many other sugar harvesting products for the demands around the world. Neville also was involved with farming with his family and also had his own farm at Alloway. Later in life, Neville and myself always stayed in touch. And even in his manufacturing days, with his father of the tomato pickers, self-propelled infill transporters, and the three-wheel high clearance sprayers, I worked for him part-time in the off-season. Neville and I commissioned a tomato picker in the late 80s in the Adelaide area and also one machine in WA. Those machines, even in that time, were driven hydraulically. In the early 90s, Neville decided to help develop the CH 2500 model cane harvester with Cameco at the Thibodaux factory in Louisiana, of which 2 machines were exported to Australia to be demonstrated for the 1992 season. These first models of these were imported directly to Neville's farm and assembled there. In the 1995 year, I helped Neville modify a few machines to separate the chopper and base cutter circuits in the CH 2500 models. These were special builds with parts supplied from the Cameco factory. A number of machines were used in New South Wales in the 2-year-old crops, and the others were sold into the Tully area. These modifications were to start a new era for the hydraulic systems in the cane harvester. In the late 90s, Neville also had a huge input into the Chemico CH2600 two-row harvester, still owned by Dave Cox today. I'm sure Dave has many memories to share with us on the development with Neville. In the 2002 season, the first of the Chemico CH3500 harvester models was demonstrated and trialled in Australia. Neville had a large input into the development of this model. It was the first major change in the frame area for many years. In 2003, the CH3500 was marketed in Australia. Later came the Chemico CH3510, and in 2007, with the green colour change, it changed to JD3510. And then we had the 3520 and later the 570 models. Today, fellows, we must thank Neville for his determination and dedication to his work to bring the machine to where it is today. Neville always claimed that if the machine worked well in the Burdekin and in the 2-year-old crops in New South Wales, it would work anywhere in the world. Neville moved harvesting to another level for the world. Neville was always keen to invite visitors from Australia to visit Thibodaux, Louisiana, where the Australian machines are made. And he also conducted many trips to Brazil. One of his trips to Moline in the Midwest, he met the love of his life, Barbara, and they later married. And they both lived in that area until his passing. In 2019, Neville and I met in Brazil. We spent a full week at Agri Show and we talked a lot about the JD CH950. A two-row machine what was released at the show in Brazil. This was another of his benchmark machines, and his dream was to work with it in Australia. As you all know, Neville's life was talking about harvesters, and he would often ring me at all hours just to talk on what he was doing. When we travelled by plane overseas and going through customs, he would always take off flat out, leaving me behind sometimes. Then at the end he would say, "Where did you get to, fella?" Deep down, Neville had a heart of gold and helped many people in our industry. We will all miss Neville ringing us to find out what's going on and his trips to Australia with the overseas visitors. Goodbye, Neville. You have left us too early, but we will never forget your input into mechanical sugarcane harvesting for the world. Thank you all.
Thank you, Graham. As I said, Graham was one of his dad's best friends, and he'd be totally humbled by what you said, mate. So thank you very much. I'd just like to call, so we're looking at different areas now. I'm going to call Tony Russo from the ISIS area of the Australian sugar industry. Tony will come and share. He spent a lot of time with Dad and many a phone call, and a few nights I've had around at your place, Tony, with Dad was always interesting.
I don't know if everyone can hear me. I think I'd rather... Can you hear me down the back? Well, I certainly hope that you know who I am, because I can say with assurance that I either have met you or I've heard about you with the phone calls we've had with Neville over the many years. He literally knew what every harvesting operator in Australia was doing at any given time, date and year. How many new harvesters were heading to Australia or indeed around the world, who had traded their machine and who was looking to buy it. Such was his total dedication and commitment to the industry, and particularly to JD in his later years. Whether we talked of the Tweed, the Petersons and Woodses in Maryborough, Considines, the Keatings, the Glaras, Tom Sets and Mackay, Meos and the Burdekin, Kevy Bloody O'Kane, who Neville thought was a donkey, the famous Neville saying for retrofitting traction levers in a trackie instead of a steering wheel. Sorry, Kevin, but Neville, Uncle did love you, really. You know, Scavazzi, Aquilini, all these names just kept coming up. He's doing this, he's doing that. Dale and Ian Bray, Butcher, Piccolo, everyone you heard of, Andrew Sues in the north. It was like a big family to Neville. He knew every service technician and knew every salesman. Loved going to Jason Zunker's place for seafood. That was his speciality, Jason, so he appreciated that. I guess one little bone I have to pick with Neville over these years is that he'd ring me up and he'd tell me these little secrets about what he's working on, what he's doing. He promised me, Tony, don't say a word to anyone. So, you know, you'd think, shit, how good's this? I know something that's going on. But then I started talking to a few people after he died, and hugging me dead, they were all told the secrets. Everyone's told the secrets. So I guess Neville played us perfectly. His ability to stay connected with so many people worldwide, and in particular his native Australia, held him in good stead to literally harvest ideas from all, and in the process help design, modify and improve the harvester. Neville, being a contractor himself in the early years, was only too aware of the importance of continual efficiencies and developments to keep us as contractors ahead of the game. I believe this was probably the most determining factor and driver in him doing what he did. This was ingrained in him from a very young age by his father, who he's very close to. I never met Harold Toft, but by all accounts, Neville was cut from the very same cloth as his dad. Harold was, and most probably will never be surpassed, as an innovator with regards to mechanising the industry. As Neville's brother, Brian, would say of his father, just imagine if he had an oxy set, MIG welders, plasmas, and AutoCAD drawings back in the 50s. Just imagine how further we would have been advanced had these been at his disposal. I concur with Graham when he said that Neville said of his father that when testing new model machine or modification, he would inevitably place that machine in the biggest crop, whether, like Graham said, the New South Wales, the Burdekin, Hawaii or even Florida. That very same method is what Neville used right to the very end. And in fact, when we had the prototype 570, he encouraged us to push the machine to its limits so as to fully test its limits and durability. Nifty's philosophy was pretty simple when he was building a machine or a cane harvester. If it needed 350 horsepower to run all the functions, he would try and put a 500 horsepower donk in there. As Neville would say, little rice burners just don't cut it. On one of many Neville tours to America, both my wife and I travelled with Neville. When we arrived in Moline, he asked my wife Sharon to accompany him to deliver an Aussie Akubra hat to the manager of the hotel we were staying in. Neville said, I don't want all the group of donkeys on tour with me, I burn you were there. With him thinking he was maybe keen on this lady. You were there too, Debbie. As it ended up, Neville went on to marry Barbara and lived out his later years a very happy man in a lovely family home and taking a keen interest in the new adopted family. Such was Neville's nature that when my eldest daughter got married, he simply said, "Send me an invitation, fella, I'm coming." He spoke regularly about his own children, Adrian and Tracy, to me, and their children as well, and I know he was super proud of young Callum. When Barbara's daughter, Miss Brandy, married and had children of her own, he was also very involved and showed the love as a grandparent as if it was his very own. Neville's sudden passing has reverberated all around the sugar world, as he was well known and respected and loved by all. He travelled to these sugar producing countries many, many times. He met thousands of people in his travels, and in typical Neville style, no one ever forgot him. He was a straight shooter who never left anyone in doubt of his opinion or otherwise. There will be a huge void left in the progression and development of the cane harvester at Neville's passing. His devotion and selfless passion of improving the cane harvesting sector will never be forgotten or replaced. My father once said to me, "No man is indispensable." While this may be the case in most instances, I reserve my right to say Neville Toft will never be matched, let alone replaced. I could talk a lot longer on Neville's achievements, but he would be saying to me, "That's enough from you now, fella." And like when he ended a telephone conversation, he would say, "Right, I've got to go see you." I have to say, you don't have to be a star or a celebrity to be recognised and respected everywhere you go, but Neville surely was. I can't finish without saying a very special thank you to Jesse Lopez. When Neville moved to America, Jesse always had Neville's back, no matter what. And in the politics of John Deere, that's a very important thing to have. There was an occasion, we all know how Neville loved his telephone. I think he was, since he was ringing on his own phone, he had to find out how he got the free calls to Australia because he had a big phone bill. He's doing all sorts of things. But one of the John Deere personnel questioned Neville about his phone bill. I'd hate to think how much it was. And Jesse just said to him, "He's just doing his job." That was it. Jesse, you enjoyed a special relationship with Neville. He respected you immensely and loved you like a brother. To all the John Deere family in the USA, you'll miss that Aussie who gave you guys such a hard time trying to get you all to understand, as Neville would say. Neville, your legacy will never end. On behalf of everyone, can I simply say thank you.
Thank you, Tony. I'd like to call upon Jerry DeGora if he'd like to come and share now. And Jerry's obviously from the Mackay area.
Now for the bad speakers. I met Neville at the farm of Alloway a long time ago, and I was just amazed that he was building tomato pickers, and I was just blown away by what he was making in that shed. That was incredible. And so then we got to know him more. We bought a 1996 Cameco, 1998 Cameco, so every time you spend a bit more time with him. Later on I became involved with a group called the Tropical City Group, and there's people from here who are here now that used to go, and we're trying to develop a new system for farming, and we'd argue over this and that, and someone come up with a design for harvest so they could cut. 20 rows at a time and throw it on the board. And he said, that won't blink and work. And, just sort of shoot them down straight away. His humour was always incredible. In 2015, I went over with the John Deere focus group. I think it was Neville who got me the gig. And we went to Louisiana, Brazil. And on the way back, I went and stayed with him and Barbara for a week. And he took me around to every museum, factory. We'd go Chinese, Mexican restaurants at night. They just wined and dined me the whole time. I'd lost my credit card in New Orleans, long story. So I had to get a loan off him. They paid for everything along the way. And it was just an incredible time. And probably that's where all them hours driving the car, I become friends with him. I think, we didn't talk just harvest, because up until then, that's all I'd ever been. And we just sort of become friends, talking about family and his growing up and, like going overseas when he was 14 and all those things. I just thought, what an incredible story. I don't think I need to. Everyone said, all the same things about him, so I can skip a fair bit of this. But, I think Neville and the whole Toft family really, the whole industry owes them a hell of a lot in harvester design and just making our life a lot better. And I think, that recognition, and the extended Toft family, not just Neville, and I think we owe them a lot. Just in closing, well, Barbara, his wife, and I've got Sam and Joe here. We've got 2 girls. Barbara never been home for dinner, and so he always used to visit. And we just like to say goodbye, Neville, and hope we can still keep in touch with Barbara. Thanks.
I'd just like to call up Ricky Mio, and again, we want to thank you for opening your place. When I first rang Ricky about this information, it's one of the first people who said to me, whatever it has to happen, we'll make it happen. And obviously at that stage with COVID and things, we weren't sure how we could make that happen, but you've been a big part to help us make that, so I really appreciate what you guys have done as a family. And I know Dad spent a lot of time on the phone and in person with you, so thank you.
Thank you very much, Adrian. To me, it's a little bit different. It's personal. So I look at spending time with Neville and Neville ringing up, and if you didn't pick up on the first time or the second time or the 5th time, you knew you had to pick up, and you knew you had 2 hours of your life gone straight away. But the thing I look at, and the thing that we all say here today, is everyone claims to be a stalwart of the industry, but never was. And as we all, in our own little world, in our own little bubble, like I can say how great Burdekin is, and Tony will tell you how great Bundaberg is, and Tony. But we all get caught up in our own life. And the beauty with Neville was he was that glue. He was the one that brought us all together to come under this one roof and to pay respect to a man that gave us so much. And I say gave us so much because I don't know if the harvesters today would be as good as they are if he wasn't here. Because every second, every chance possible, he was improving. Whether it's another pump on the choppers, whether it was putting a bigger pump on the choppers, or just any little thing that could improve it. And I can remember there was 2 times. Once I went to Brazil with Tony, and there wasn't. And one thing I noticed in regards to John Deere, and I noticed in regards to Neville and his influence in the whole scheme of things in the whole John Deere family, nothing happened unless Neville said it was okay. To the point that there was a machine in a paddock trying to pick up some cane and had this big front on it. And it wasn't doing that well, and it's just right, Neville, please can you come over? Excuse me, Ricky and Tony, I've just got to go over and see these guys. Right, this is wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. Are you kidding? There was nothing that happened to these machines without Neville. And as much as I'm going to miss him in the years ahead, we're going to miss him. We're going to see that. And I was fortunate, and my family was fortunate to, in 2000 and last year was COVID, 2020, we went overseas. We went to America on a honeycomb tour. And one of the highlights to me is not going through the factories, not going to see all the different tractors and how they're produced, but spending time with the people, spending the time with Dickies, and spending time with Neville and Barbara. That's what I loved. And I loved the fact that my family got the opportunity to see Neville in his home, see Neville, the person, the man, the one that we don't all get to see, but he's there, the guy that just loves kids, that loves teaching and loves showing. And so for me it's personal. So for me, with Neville going, with Neville not here anymore, without that Sunday morning, Saturday morning, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday morning, without Neville ringing up and saying, Rick, what are you doing, what are you up to? That's what I'm going to miss. And I think that we have lost something so important. And I just want to say thank you very much, Neville. Thank you.
Well, next I'd like to call the donkey, Kevin O'Kane. Now, I had the privilege of travelling with Kevin to Brazil, and Kevin didn't look a lot at the cane, but he looked at a lot of the locals, and yeah, we had a lot of fun. So thanks for doing this. I really appreciate it. I know Dad appreciates it too, mate.
Thanks, Adrian. Anyway, okay, I'm the donkey. I can take that. I've been called a lot worse in my life. But anyway, my first recollection of talking to Neville was probably at a field day in 1992 in Townsville, where he actually had a chemical, where I was climbing all over it, because like many of us here, cane harvesting is actually an addiction, and I had it bad. Anyway, he says, where are you from, young fella? What do you do? Where are you from? And all the rest of it. Anyway, what sort of machine you had? We had a Series 4 6000 in the day, the company I was working for, and he actually brought that machine to Tully on a road show. And it was actually parked on Davison Road there. We were waiting for Dims. I was only cutting up the road. So he took the time to come down there and have a look at it. And he had the cows over on the top, and he had these 4 showers at the back on the top of the choppers, turned upside down and flow dividers. I said, now where you got all that all going to? He says, never mind what I'm doing down here, mate. He said, it's a bit above your head. And I said, is that right? I said, okay. I said, I reckon I could work it out. Anyway, as time went on, my company that I worked for at the time, they were looking at a new machine. He did come around with the chemical, but because he only had 2 full tracks, they were snapped up pretty quick and we missed out. And I ended up driving a 7.7. But anyway, apart from driving a 7.7, Neville still come and see me. You know, I'm still a young with the slipper as a driver, and he actually came to check out his chemicals, but he came to see me in a 7.7. He says, I'm going to have your ass in one day, mate, young fella. Anyway, as time went on, he did. I ended up with a 2500, and I cut a lot of cane with that 2500. We had some very big years of cutting over 100,000 tonnes with it at the time, and I remember one time he was actually riding with me, and he says, oh, you got this thing going along pretty good, young fella. What have you done? I said, well, I'm learning off you. I said, you've got to have horsepower, and you've got to have everything turned up, which meaning what it does. Anyway, so as time went on, we ended up with a 3510, and my association with Neville became a bit more closer and closer. And the 3510 actually had a couple little problems, which we talked on the phone a very lot. And one was the cooling package. It actually had the radio things. If anyone had a 3510, they know what I'm talking about. But he rang me up one night and he says, now listen here, young fellow, I've got a little bit of a project for you. He said, I've got a cooling package coming. You're going to have to unload it off the semi-trailer. Now, don't tell Honeycombs. This is for you. You have to change it over yourself. Don't tell anyone. Anyway, the other 3510s that were working in the area, they were all ringing me up and say, oh, what's your machine running at? And I say, oh, no, I'm only on 80. But unbeknown to them, I'd already changed all the cooling packages. I had different radiators. I had lots of things, all because of Neville. And then, anyway, as time went on, we did a few more modifications. He was always quick with the camera to take a few. I actually made the power feed in front of the base cutter box adjustable, which is on a 570 today. And as I said to Jeffrey Fura, it only took you 15 years to copy. I don't know what you were doing. But anyway, cut a long story short, I had a little heart problem in 2006 where I ended up in the Prince Charles Hospital. Neville opened up his arms to me every time I went to Prince Charles Hospital. he was always passionate, wanted to know what I was doing, where I was up to, and how I was going. Anyway, we had a cyclone Larry come through, wiped us out a bit, but we just kept travelling on. Anyway, as time went on, Neville would come and say good day, and we became very good friends. And then he gave me the opportunity one day, out of the blue, he says, have you got a passport? And I said, no, I haven't. He says, well, young fella, he said, you better get off your ass and go and get one, which I did. Anyway, I was lucky enough to be invited to go to Texas with him and Ian Constantine, and we actually had a whale of a time. And while we were over there, it was actually quite funny. You know, we're in the middle of the middle of Texas, right against the Rio Grande River. And it's pretty similar country here to the Vertigan. It's very much like the Vertigan, you would not believe. Anyway, I started calling him Uncle Neville, which I actually felt very close to him. And, you know, I'd be, hey, Uncle Neville, where are we going now? Hey, Uncle Neville, what are we doing? And he never minded. So from that day on, he always became Uncle Neville to me. Anyway, as time went on, we ended up with a 3520. Anyway, it had a couple of little secrets in it too, as it come from the factory. But the worst thing it had was the steering wheel. And anyway, so we got offside over that because the steering wheel cost us time, and I was always up. But anyway, we worked out how to fix it, and the engineers over in America said it'd never be done. And they said to me, I said, we've got to get the Green Star working with the sticks, and they said it can't be done. But so I literally went on a tour, and Tony Russo was on that tour. I went to the school to see how it worked, because it was a bit beyond me, this electrical system that we had. So I sat up on the board there, and a couple other mates of mine from Tully, we were all there. Anyway, I had this little ding-ding, I had this idea. Anyway, so I actually came home, and the machine actually had two little problems. It had a surging problem in low range, which no one could work out whether it was hydraulic or electrical, and it had the steering wheel. But anyway, we actually modified our full track machines in Tully, and I'm not the only one that does it. We actually have them walking at 16 k's, where engineers would say, no, it can't be done, you can't do that. Well, we're in the year 2000 now, and we can do whatever we want. Anyway, I'd actually worked out the little surgeon problem. It was actually a hydraulic problem in a roundabout way, and I rang Neville up and I said, hey Neville, I says, that hydraulic surgeon, that surgeon problem we got on the transmission, I said, it's actually hydraulic. I said, you know, you've got to shift this hose and put it to a different place in the tank. Anyway, he says, I'll get back to you on that one. Anyway, he rings me back, he says, I've been talking to such and such over in the engineers department, and you're right, Kevin, you're right. And I said, oh, by the way, Neville, I says, I've actually got the Green Star working, I've chucked the steering wheel out and I put the sticks back in the machine. He said, how did you do that? I said, I'm not telling you. Anyway, in a roundabout story, he actually sent Louis Bouar over. It was about 3 weeks later, they turned up in the paddock, and I still wouldn't show him how I did it. But anyway, we went back to, in 2013, I think we did another trip on an MT tour. And Neville goes, oh, here's the young fella that's just worked out how to get the Green Star working with the sticks. And he's one of his electrical engineers. He says, well, how did you do it? And I said, well, you're the electrical engineer, you told me. And I walked away. So it was actually quite a little highlight in my life when I beat an engineer, I thought. But I did do a trip to Brazil with Neville, with Adrian. We actually had a ball of a time. As time went on, whenever he'd come to Tully, he was by myself. He actually used to personally come and stay with me. We talk about lots of things. We talk about girlfriends, we talk about what we used to do, what we could do, and what we're going to do. But I love the man dearly. I actually really, really do. He's actually left a big hole in my heart, because without him and Kane Arthurs, he would never have taken me around the world. There was always a bright side to him. And I was truly listening. I was only talking to him Friday a week ago. It was a shock to me. That's all I can say.
Thanks, Kevin. I'd just like to put Robert Lyon come and say a few words. Dad did a lot of work with Robert, made some pretty special crocodiles back in the day, and he was always trying to make me have a set of those, but I didn't have big enough headlamps.
Good afternoon, everybody. For those who don't know me, I'm from the Herbert River District. I was state and federal president representing the harvesting sector for many years. And I got to know Neville mainly when he formed Chemico Down Under. As a lot of you probably remember what he set up there.
And before that, we were dealing with Ostop. And the harvesting sector of Australia was wanting different things put onto their machines. It come to a point where Ostop was not wanting to do things. So Chemico Down Under come under with a new machine. Neville brought the John Deere, the Chemico owner, to Australia, had a meeting, I guess, in a few different areas, and said, we're going to come and bring a machine in. The Australian industry then started to see changes, because the moment Chemico Down Under started, Ostop invited the executive harvesting sector and said, we will meet the opposition head on. And Neville enjoyed that challenge, because they said, oh, they're scraping the paint off the base cutter box, because it's the same box in the Chemico, which was fine. But Neville was the engineer, he was the driver behind what happened to Chemico Down Under. As those who know Neville and his role there, he came out and supported his business very well by putting warehouses in each district for parts back up. He became a very close friend of my family, my wife and my 3 daughters. We had many a meal at our family table. He'll be missed. Our family couldn't believe it when we had the call that Neville had passed on. So my condolences from my family to Adrian, your family, and to his American family and friends over there. And yes, the sign of the cruiser rolled over. Neville went to sleep early in the morning. One will never forget that, and nor will he, because he couldn't remember. All you know, he woke up and he was in an accident. So, very lucky that day. But Neville, to our industry, like many people have put before, will be long remembered for what the drive, and I think it was the oil in the veins. And anybody who's owned and driven harvesters or equipment, know you've got it in the blood or you have it. And Neville had it with a passion. When Chemico Down Under went to America and John Deere took over, Neville then drove John Deere and ideas, and many people put before me, of what he had input into the design of the new 3500 series. I was fortunate enough to be invited by John Deere to evaluate that machine. I had a chance to drive it in Louisiana in the swamps, fall in the ruts. The only thing, I only got to drive it for about 20 minutes and it broke. So the Aussie did it again, he broke it. So they took it back to fix it. We then went down to Texas and we got to drive in Texas, a wheelie, mind you, not a trackie. And some of the people there in Texas said, he can drive a harvester. To their surprise, this little Aussie could. And Neville will be a stalwart all over the world. At that convention over there, we had people from all different parts, Latin America, Colombia, and Neville knew them all. That's the type of man he had. From down under, he went to America to promote what we did best, and that was design, modify, and change cane harvesters. So, a lot of things have been said before me. I just say, Neville, you're up down there looking at us now. Hope you can keep guiding industry from up there. And to the American counterparts, well, you're going to miss him. I just hope you can keep doing what he did to the harvesters and carry on the tradition. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
So I just wanted to read out a message from Neville's wife, Barbara, and obviously the grandchildren. You would have seen some of those photos go up online. We put those pages up just because Dad's got such a big audience across the world, so it's been quite hard to correspond with everyone. So this is from Barbara. While we're still unable to find the words to express how shocked and devastated we are, we would like you to thank everyone for all the kind words and memories. Neville would be so humbled and awed by this outpouring of love and respect that everyone has shown and continue to share with us. He was truly a unique individual who made lifelong friends wherever he travelled. He treated everyone as his friend, regardless of who or where they were from. Neville was a brilliant man, and he and his family contributed a wealth of knowledge to the sugarcane industry worldwide. But he was also a loving son, a loving father, grandfather, and the most exceptional husband. He loved his family unconditionally. And we thank you again for your outpouring for Neville. So we appreciate that. Just finally, before I'm going to play a video, one of Dad's brothers is here today, Brian Toft, so thanks Brian for being here. But one of Dad's brothers that he spoke to often, he grew up, became a missionary, he went over and travelled the world, worked in a lot of different organisations, worked for Kerry Packer. He's put together a little package to finish off the service today, just from his point of view. And so he's coming from a heart that he cares for people, and he cares about how everyone's outpouring is and the way that you may be feeling because of this sudden loss. I'll get my wife Elisa to play in a minute. In my final address, you know, we shared Dad with everyone. I actually feel quite privileged that I've been to many of your homes. I feel comfortable that I can drive anywhere in Queensland, New South Wales, and stay with someone and feel supported, cared for, because I'm a top. I think that's so unique. I love that. I love that I could go anywhere. The fact that people have driven here from a long way and given time for my dad is very special. I'll never forget that. If you knew Neville at all, Dad was great at saying goodbye on the phone, wasn't he? I'd be talking, so I just want to make sure you don't feel like you guys were different. Dad would I'd be talking to Dad, next thing Elisa would go, "Was that your dad?" I said, "Yeah." "Did he hang up?" "Yeah." So you're not alone there, okay? Dad loved us. He just struggled sometimes to maybe put it out the right way. But I can tell you, he went the extra mile for us. He'd do so much to try and support people. So my fond memories of growing up with Dad was right from a little boy, Dad was always on a phone somewhere. Dad would go into his office every night and he'd ring people. And the conversations I'd sit around and listen to. How many bins did you do today? How many tonnes per hour? How much horsepower? How much oil? Oil plus pressure equals horsepower. Dad just loved talking harvests, is what I did. So I grew up probably industrial deafness now because I was with Dad in harvesters. Some of the shots you might have seen, some might be unusual. There's one there of a Toyota Land Cruiser. Unfortunately, Dad went through a stage of having a bit of sleep apnea. He just visited me in Airlie Beach and he drove away. Unfortunately, put his car into auto cruise and he went to sleep at 100 k's an hour. Dad drove off the highway. I think he rolled it like 3 or 4 times. Totally destroyed that car. Graham was probably one of the first people, I'm pretty sure, that saw Dad after that. But first thing I remember, Dad said to me, "It's okay, I've found my phone." That was his main worry. We're just like, "Mate, you just, you know, I can't believe you're alive, Buzz." He wasn't. It was just unbelievable what happened that day. But every day, Dad would ring. He rang my son, Callum, nearly every day or every second day, passionate about what's Callum doing. Callum is running a cotton harvester. My friends have just flown in today to stop picking. Callum will be back there, ready to go Monday. And harvest. And Dad, if anyone knew, Dad was passionate about what Callum was doing in his harvester. There'll be shots there of my girls too. Casey's here, my daughter, and my other daughter is at home in St. George. Couldn't be here today, Kira Lee. But Dad would hang them over his shoulder. He'd call them Missy or Sissy, or he'd always want to be with them, and he loved them. He loved his brothers, and he loved you, Brian, and he spent a lot of time on the phone. I know you're going to miss Dad's phone calls, as we all will. I'm sort of surprised. My wife will tell you I'm very similar. I make a lot of phone calls and I'm connected to a lot of people, but I think that's Dad's mentoring, as everyone would call it. He just taught me that, and he said that we're not the smartest guys in the shed. It's worth knowing lots of people, and everyone has played a part. And I encourage you with that. I know a lot of people are pointing it back to Dad, but I just want to encourage you. I think a lot of you here, and collectively, the brains trust we have is pretty amazing. Because you've all got experience, you're all operators. I operated a harvester for a long time, and I was probably Dad's harshest critic. I can remember an experience with Dad brought the new 3500 down, and I had a 2500. Dad did 2 rows, and he just drove away, and everyone said, where's your old man going? I said, he knows it's not good enough. He just drove it back to the shed. And that was the truth, you know. It wasn't as good at that stage, but I knew he'd make it better. I'll give you one final one. I remember being overseas doing some demonstrating, and it was hilarious. I was having all these choke-ups and stuff, and I'm just like, geez, I'm over this, Dad. He goes, well, what does it need? And I said, I think it needs a bit more oomph. So Dad sends back message to these guys, make a bigger flywheel. Well, it was about half the size of Ricky's harvester over there. And I remember it was going phenomenal until I hit the first piece of timber. And I looked out beside me and this little Asian guy's going down there. And the whole flywheel had snapped off, flowing down the side and went into the tracks and stopped me from harvesting. And, you know, I thought, well, there's a classic, you know, Nev, give him more oomph. He told them the sizes and dimensions, and it sort of was just incredible what they did. And I just, you know, that's Dad in a nutshell. He just wanted things to go well. Finally, I just want to give a bit of thanks to my best friend Jason and Paul. Like, you guys have looked after us, nurtured us, cared for us, done anything for us this week. We came up as soon as we knew, and we felt like we wanted to, especially in the north, give honour to what Dad had done and to all of you guys. And you've looked after me, you know, like a brother, and that's the way I see you. My dad loved you a lot and put a lot of time in with Jason. It was a lot of hard work early on, but no, he loved you, mate, and he really would have appreciated all that you've done for me and my family, mate. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Last but not least, we just we've got some stuff there if you want to have some drinks and eat. Inside here, if you just, there's a fridge there with drinks and stuff there. You're welcome to have as much as you like. The guys will bring out some food and that. I'm going to play Gordon's. Gordon's is pretty powerful, what he says, and just remembering that's Dad's brother, and obviously he's dealing with grief as well. But just from myself and my family to you and your families, thank you for what you did with my dad. I loved my dad, and my sister as well, and all our family. We say thank you, and just can't thank you enough for what you've done to you know, encourage our family. So thank you very much.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming along today to this special tribute, or those who will be seeing it later on via video, and appreciate all the sentiment and thoughts that people have brought. I'd also like to say how proud I am to be able to do this presentation as a tribute to Neville. But I'd like to bring your attention to a song by a Canadian songwriter named Joni Mitchell. It was called The Big Yellow Taxi. Maybe you've heard it. But by the end of this, you may be more familiar with it. It says, they took all the trees, put them in a tree museum, and they charged the people $1.50 just to see them. Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone? They paved paradise and put up a parking lot. It was a Greenie's anthem, and I'm not trying to suggest Neville was a Greenie. Far from it, apart from a green harvesting passion. He and Dad used to have different views on what was the best knife. Was it the swinging knife? Or for Neville, it was the Mazzy roller-bladed chopper. And Neville stuck to his guns and proceeded to develop that further and further. It was his passion. Memories are very important things for us all, and all of you here today will have your own unique memory of Neville. Many associated with the cane harvesters will know a particular Neville who was very aware of always trying to make a better machine, more efficient, more reliable, taking on and incorporating new technologies that would enable the operator to operate more effectively and efficiently. Things like GPS tracking, ground-hugging crop dividers and base cutters, etc. He was always looking out to make it easier for the operator, because he had been one. Neville didn't have a lot of airs and graces, and we can probably understand why his American friends saw him as a bit of a redneck. When Aileen and I, my wife, spent some time over with Neville at his place in Moline a couple of years ago, it was quite interesting the number of people that would follow us around through the supermarket, for example, just to listen to Neville and us talking in our funny accent. Some of the even brave ones would come up and want to enter into dialogue with us so they could hear the unique way that we spoke. But to us here in Australia, Neville was just a good Aussie bloke. Down to earth, no frills, take him as he was or leave him to himself. He was happy with either. It's been a fitting but overwhelming tribute, all the postings and comments people have made on the Australian sugarcane harvesting and farming site, the phone calls, the messages, and here today the number of people present and wanting to be here. It is clear Neville had a lot more influence on many, many people, more than he recognised or acknowledged and even appreciated himself. Maybe John Deere could add Neville's name to the model numbers of cane harvesters in the future. Maybe you could call it the Neville, but probably more realistically or appropriately, you could call it the CHNT for Neville Toft 570 or 950, etc. Just putting it out there, John Deere. He was a man of few words, unless it was talking about harvesters. If it was something he wasn't all that interested in, Neville would quickly terminate a call, and oftentimes his phone manner would be, you were just left hanging, wondering, is he still there? He would just hang up and he'd be gone. Well, he has really gone now. Gone for good. No more calls, just memories to hold on to. Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone. There's that song again. I'd like to mention about September. September's a very important month in the Toft family. We have a number of birthdays. Bryony's on the 13th. A week later, Neville's on the 20th of September. He was born in 1947, making him 73 and a half years old. And then Raymond's a week later on the 27th. For those mathematically inclined in the group listening in, would obviously do some maths and work out that Christmas and New Year celebrations must have been something special for Mum and Dad. But the reason I bring up September is that September there is a National Day of Action, and it's called Are You OK Day. Are You OK Day is this National Day of Action dedicated to reminding everyone that every day is a good day to ask, are you okay? And support those struggling with life's ups and downs. There's another group called Beyond Blue, where you can get support and help for people who are feeling, well, I just don't know what I'm feeling. Are you okay is an important question to ask, and it shouldn't be that hard for all of us. But more importantly, after asking that question, we need to listen, and listen without judgment to that person's response or sometimes cry for help. Then we need to encourage that person, encourage them to take some action, to see that there is a lot to live for. And then follow up. Very important that we follow up on people. We can't solve every problem, but we can ask, are you okay? In our Tofty family, we were brought up in a faith-based home and under the Salvation Army. A big part of our early life and continuing for many of us. We leave judgment to God's eternal wisdom and the mercy of God himself. In Matthew chapter 7 verse 1 it says, Judge not, that you be not judged. Then I'd like to talk and present Psalm 23 verses 4 and 5, where it says, "Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever." Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone? Now, for those of you here today in northern Queensland and those online or watching later, as you prepare to chat and go your separate ways, think of your memories about Neville and talk about all the different things that come up in a group of like-minded people. Don't forget to look after yourself and be aware that there will be people who will be affected and impacted differently to you, even struggling by Neville's passing. There will no doubt be many questions, and many may never be answered. But give yourself and others the space to work through the grieving process and support them as well as yourself. Are you okay? Are you okay? Don't it always seem to go? You don't know what you've got till it's gone. Thank you.
So yeah, we definitely don't want to leave anyone. Dad loved a lot of people, so take care of each other. That's why I want to have this time now of celebration and enjoy each other's company. Dad's great memories, and please join us now. We've got a book as well. I would love if everyone could please put down your name and sign it so we know who was here today in attendance. Join us now for a time of refreshments, and yeah, look after each other. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.